Once again, my name is John Dickson. A little bit about myself. Currently, I'm with the Employment Security Department, very proudly part of the Employment Security Department. I was called, hey Bill, our Eastern Region Director. I've been in this role just over a year. Just a little bit about my background. I am a Spokane kid. I did grow up here. Did the unthinkable. I went to University of Washington. Go Huskies. I got a master's degree from Wazoo. So,
yeah.
Okay. Mechanical engineer by training. And spent 25 great years at the Boeing Company in Seattle, Washington, supporting our warfighters. Working on the F-22 Raptor, building the wings in the aft fuselage, B-2 bomber, building the wings in the aft center section. Just had a lot of fun. And very luckily, back about 14 years ago, I found my way into the public sector. Actually into Employment Security Department, running WorkSource Spokane here. And I got to be honest with you, I came in with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, right? This private industry guy, performance, moving to state government. And let me tell you what, was I impressed with the staff, Bill, team that it's like, oh my God, these are the hardest working folks that I've been around in my career, wanting desperately to serve the public well. And all of a sudden I realized what my role was how do I serve my frontline staff who are trying to serve our clients, serve our veterans, etc. So I couldn't be prouder of being in the public sector. I stepped away, became the Chief Operation Officer of Spokane County, working with the county commissioners. That was an eye-opening experience, fascinating. CEO of a regional nonprofit before, thankfully, finding my way back. I've been around the block, and I do have to tell you, I'm proudest of the work that we do with, in essence, the public workforce system. And every part of what we discuss here with all of you, guess how much our citizens pay for all of these services? Nothing, right? This is your system. This is your workforce system that I want to share with you. So as we work our way through this, if any of you have any questions, comments, what's working, what's not, love to hear from you. We do have a microphone-ish. We do have a microphone, so just out of respect, if we do have some questions, raise your hand if you've got a question, and we'll get you in the microphone so everybody can hear. Fair enough? All right. Why don't we go to the next chart? On behalf of our team, Employment Security, all of our partners that we do have at our WorkSource, at our America Job Center teams, thank you for being here. And if you are a veteran, if you are a spouse of a veteran, thank you very much for your service. Very much appreciated. I'll go to the next one, Ish. What we're going to cover, and once again, let's please make this interactive if we can. I wouldn't call this the most exciting topic, but let's have some dialogue as we go through it. I guarantee you, if you've got a question, somebody else has got that same question. So please, Bill,
Not
already?
a question. But
Ish, microphone. You've got a question.
John knows I don't usually need a microphone, but not known for being too quiet. But I think it's really interesting that when we chose at some point in the past to define it as a workforce system, it gives the impression we're talking about workers, like the workforce are the workers, but it's a partnership of workers and employers that make this system.
It does, and thank you for that, Bill. Sometimes I see it kind of as that eHarmony. How do we help connect not only our job seekers with our employers, but our employers with our job seekers also? So our teams, as we go through this, and we'll talk about that, what we not only do with our job seekers, but our employers. When I say job seekers, it's not just the unemployed we work with, all right? I'd argue, when I see some of the numbers, have any of you heard the term ALICE? Asset limited, income constrained employee. The working poor, paycheck to paycheck. Any idea across the state of Washington what % of working families are at or below the ALICE level? Percentage-wise, anybody? What's that? 2/3. Little less. It is actually almost about 37%. All working families in the state of Washington are paycheck to paycheck. One auto issue, one away from what am I not gonna pay next month. Part of our system not only works with the unemployed, but it also is, we're trying to do an even more effective job working with the underemployed. How can we work maybe with your current employers? We got another question.
Can you say that one more time, the hours?
Now, asset limited, income constrained, employed.
Thank you.
You're working, but you're not making a level of pay where it's a living wage job. You're struggling. You're just making it. You're barely making it. Some months you're not making it, right? This system is also for you, your family, your friends, right? So unemployed and underemployed. We'll go through what WorkSource is, part of the American Jobs Center, across the nation. We call it WorkSource in the state of Washington. We just did a survey. There's 31 comprehensive larger centers. We got 16 smaller centers. So there's almost 50 opportunities across the state to connect with you, your families, your friends. A really big part of what we try to do with that equity lens, for me, equity is meeting you where you're at. The beauty of One Stops is there is a physical location where you can go to get these services. We'll also talk about our amazing virtual services that we've got. But for many of us, I run the eastern region. This goes from Colville and Ferry County all the way down to Asotin County, the Tri-Cities, Walla Walla. We got a lot of rural individuals. And the thought of even we've got 6 one-stop employment centers across 12 counties. So for many of our clients, it's tough. It's tough to actually physically get to our centers, and compounded on top of that is the broadband challenge that we've got. These are things that we actively work on with other state partners, especially that broadband. How can we do this even more effectively to meet you and all of you where you're at? So what I'm going to be sharing is just a huge complement. There's so many players, elected officials and business leaders behind the scenes, ultimately trying to meet you where you're at. So we can always do better. And any ideas that you've even got during our short time together here would be greatly appreciated. Job Seekers Employers Bill, as you said, working with both, trying to work with them. And with our employers, it's changing. It's changing. We've got some digital literacy challenges, not only that we're finding with our job seekers. In many of our counties, we're having digital literacy issues with our employers. Some of those smaller employers, maybe 5 employees or less, no HR department. A lot of times this is where we come in to try to help out with that. So how can we do an even more effective job there? And towards then, just highlight with our veterans, we've got a real focus with our veterans, and actually went into my virtual WorkSource WA account, which I'm going to introduce you to if you don't know about it. Highly encourage all of you, if you don't have one, to get one. And I just did some screenshots to show you why it is a really good idea for individuals like me and others to have a WorkSource WA account, because it's an amazing tool for each of you and your friends to manage your careers. Let's go, next. So overall, what is this thing we call the Washington workforce system? There's really a couple components to it. It's, as a collective whole, and there's so many players. Employment security is one of them, but we've got so many more. Working together, innovation is a key word. Influence, impact, and scale, system level innovation. Would you agree the world is constantly changing, right? The needs of our job seekers, the needs of our employers are constantly changing. Would you agree that COVID has forever changed the way we not only are employed, but the way we employ? And employment security and our partners, we're either being led by it or we're leading it. And we're doing our best to kind of really stay ahead of this thing and be very progressive partners with both our job seekers and our employers. So a lot of work we do is around innovation. Once again, I got to be honest with you. When I came from private industry and then into the public sector, I'm thinking innovation, state agency, and boy, let me tell you, there is some amazing innovation going on. And it's hard. It's not easy, right? We've got so many partners, but I'm very impressed with the innovative work that we're doing, it's a constant focus on meeting our clients where they're at. Not the other way around, hey, you gotta come to us, right? And then we'll help you out. We do have those opportunities, but it's not what really drives us. Through the collective power, advocacy, and collaboration, we realize that together, state agencies, private, our CBOs, across the state, we're a force. We're a force with our legislature. We've got a lot to say. The opportunities we're going through right now, getting ready for this next legislative session coming up, the long session, is, okay, what are some of these really key things? We spent an afternoon talking about this yesterday. What are we going to be doing on your behalf? Because this is your system. This is your public workforce system. What are we hearing from you? Be thinking about this. Love to hear any input you might have also on that as we continue forward. But those are things we're already starting to prepare for. We're going to have a new governor in the state come January. So what are those things that we're going to be doing that we're hearing from the field? And that's one of the bigger things that our team does that works with employers and that works with our job seekers. It's constantly, what are we hearing? What are we hearing? What's working? What's not working? What are some of those policy decisions, funding-wise? How do we get out into the more remote areas? Because it's every citizen's system. You pay for this, right? It's free services, but it's still your system. So anyway, it's a big group of many folks very passionate about helping all of our jobs and our employers out to continue to grow our economy. Any questions or comments so far? Pretty broad so far. Let's jump to the next. So how the heck do we coordinate and organize some of this stuff across the state of Washington? What we've done across the state of Washington, you can see it here, is we've divided the state up into 12 different what we call workforce development areas. All right, so what? What's a workforce development area? Well, every one of these workforce development areas has got what's called a local workforce development board. So this is a board of individuals. It is business-led. It's a requirement in the state that a business leader leads each of the 12 workforce boards. Who's on these boards? We've got stakeholders from education, economic development, labor organization, community-based organizations, CBOs, a state, ESD is on these. And as we get funding, federal level, some from the state, some of that money does go through the workforce councils then to be distributed out. Like, where are we going to invest our funding? Would you agree that across our state it's very likely that there might be different needs in workforce Southwest Washington than we might have up in the Eastern Washington Partnership? They're different. And it's why we've set up this system with this more local flavor to it. So the money's come through, big broad policies on how you can spend it, but we're very likely in the different workforce regions going to utilize that funding differently. Each of these workforce councils, we just went through a strategic planning exercise where we're looking for 2024 to 2028. What are some of those key things? There's some key guidelines that all of us had to focus on. Myself, and you'll see it in the next slide, but I'm on 3 different workforce boards on behalf of employment security, and just in the eastern region, across the right side there. It's fascinating how unique and different, but that's the beauty of our these workforce development areas, is we get that opportunity, not through business-led, to let us know, hey, how should we be investing these dollars? And not only our job seekers, but our employers also. Any questions there? Microphone? Thank you.
That's okay. Thanks, Ish. So I know that our agency is ESD. Yes, we have a lot of staff, but yet we're only we can only be so many different places at once. So that means we have to be able to leverage what it is that we do. And I know, because I'm over in Snohomish County, and Ish is super aware of all this. But having said all of that, so I'm just kind of curious as to, as an example, our library systems and all that. It's all about being able to multiply what it is that we do, just to get the word out better. Right. So that sort of thing.
It's challenging. I've heard this a lot. And if you're in your system, it's the greatest kept secret in the state of Washington. That grates me to my core. And it's not, because I see the work that you in your team. I know the work we do. We don't have huge, it's the public's money we utilize. So let me first state that. This is the public's money that we're utilizing. As much as we'd love to have a Microsoft, Boeing level a PR department to share what we do, what we try to do with our funds is try to get as many in that dollar. I'll just use as a proverbial dollar. How can we get the highest percentage of that dollar to you and to our employers? If we were, to your point, if we were to spend a lot of that dollar on advertising, and which we don't, it would be that much fewer cents that we could get into our clients. So we constantly work on this, on how do we get the word out more on who we are, what we are. There's a huge reliance within these workforce boards to get that word out. But as you know, in Snohomish, as I know across my region, it's challenging. It's especially challenging for a lot of our clients. In my region, there's a lot of rural, a lot of remoteness to it, a lot of needs that we do our best to meet. Down in the southern part of the central, we got a lot of our migrant seasonal farm workers that are moving. And how do we do a great job of meeting them where they're at? I'm very proud of the work we do across the state. In Snohomish, we've got migrant seasonal farm workers that we go out and we meet with them, with employers, assuring that some of the more recent laws that have been passed are understood by not only our job seekers but our employers. So, but it's a constant challenge, and it's why this whole system is we can't do it alone. As a one-stop system, it's all these community partners to try to get that word out. So I hope I somewhat answered parts of your question.
I was also curious as far as leveraging, because I know I can, to an extent, whenever possible, like have like a small outer centers, like through the library, to have them all set up. I know in different areas that they've done that. That's kind of what I'm.
And you're correct, and thank you for that. We have different layers of what we call certified one-stop centers. Every one of these WDAs here, there's a requirement that we have what's called a comprehensive certified one-stop, where there's a large array of required services. They tend to be our larger one-stops. We've got other layers of certifications. An affiliate site, which is less connection sites. And to your point, we've got a lot, and Ish, could you introduce yourself, Ish?
Hi, I'm Ish. I'm John's assistant.
And anyway, a huge player and just a great person. And so the question is, how do we get access to the computers for our system? So yes, some of these connection sites that have got the WorkSource brand, county libraries, city libraries, here, community centers. The question is, where are our clients? And how can we do a better job of meeting them where they're at? And things we found, especially in this county, as much as community centers, huge. And libraries, especially county libraries. So in many of them, these are partners of ours, connection sites. But we're always looking at innovative ways to find other entities that got kind of a shared mission, but that as much as we love our physical one-stops, and we'll get into the virtual types of services, it's necessary but not sufficient for many of our clients, especially those of our clients that are really economically strapped. And we've got clients here that might take 2 or 3 bus rides just to physically get to WorkSource Spokane. Well, okay, we can do better than that. How do we meet them better where they're at? So it's a constant opportunity and challenge to provide great services like that. And the innovation that I see across the state in Snohomish and other areas, it takes many hands lighten the load. So we're always looking for those opportunities to get these types of resources out into those areas where a lot of our clients are. All right. That's the 12 different workforce development areas. Let's dive down now a little bit next-ish. This is, at least within an employment security department, which I'm a very proud member of, the way we've divided the 12 workforce. There will not be a test. And after this.
Like, which one is Bremerton?
Yes, yes. But what we've done strategically, okay, how do we cover this state? So we've divided the state into 5 areas. My area here does have 3 of the workforce development councils from the previous. So most of my peers, which is right here, are on 2 or 3 boards each. And we do our best from state perspective. We're big players. We're big players in the Washington State workforce development system. Far, far from the only players. So this is how we do our best to work with our partners. And most importantly, it's getting that feedback. What's actually happening? What's so important to us is what is happening. Bill is one of our front lines. What is our clients, what are our customers saying? Part of our responsibility then is to go back to our boards, our partners, and I'll get more into who is in our one-stops, but we're new to you here with the previous presentation with JBLM. If you haven't, we're all trying to be innovative on who's in our centers. One thing we learned with our clients that come into our centers especially, you know what, they don't care if you're employment security department. They don't care if you're some of our nonprofit partners or part of the workforce council. They want a job, they want their benefits, they want to talk to somebody. So we always do our best, as we provide our services, to not have to continue to pass our clients to other people, even within the centers. So we do our best. It's a challenge. I'll be honest with you. It can be a real challenge at times. But this is the way that we have divided it up. We've got those 31 one-stops and 16 of the connection sites across the state. I'm going to go more here into the virtual services, because that's another great way for both our employers and our job seekers to manage their journey to either getting even a higher paying job, connecting with employers, etc. And we see a lot of people. You're 170,000 workers, 5,600 Washington employers, so it's an honor. It's an honor. Another thing with at least our team is that the higher the unemployment rate, the more staff that we tend to have in our agency. I left employment security last around 2013, and this was coming out of the 2008 recession, which might have affected a lot of you. We had very high 10, 11, 12%. So we had many more individuals, at least from the state. We got funded more. We're at a kind of a lower unemployment rate right now. So, there's fewer staff right now to do the services. So, but it's an honor. It's for me, it's a real honor, especially as we look at the actual results of the work that through our one-stop centers, through our Washington Workforce Development System, our public workforce, those that do work with us are getting employed faster, and they're earning more funding than those who don't. Because it does take a village. There's so many of us helping out. So many of our clients, whether they're our employers or our job seekers, we have to reach out, and there's a lot of other folks that we are connected to that we have to get the right help, because we don't have all the answers as individual agencies, but collectively we do a better job. I'm going to go to the next. So we've already touched on this some. The Washington name for the America Job Center is WorkSource. Very proud of that. And we've pretty much talked, what we do is, that employment, that training. There's a lot of training resources also available, upskilling. So much of what our team does is, as individuals come in, whether they're unemployed or underemployed, it's what are your skills, what are those transferable skills? I'll show you on our WorkSource wall. There's a bunch of different skills assessments that individuals can do to help a lot of our clients self-realize that, wow, I'm pretty close to being able to take this type of position with just a little bit more training. And the beauty of our system here is that so often that we have the ability to pay for the training to upskill that individual to that next level. to a variety of different funding sources, but once again, completely free to our clients, both our employers and our job seekers. Why don't we go to our next? We love these, our one-stops. They come in all different shapes and sizes. The presentation before this, we've actually got one on Joint Base Lewis McChord. Only one in the nation that's within an air base. And the recent winners for the second time of what we call the Mark Sanders Award for being the most progressive one-stop serving our veterans. So we're very proud of this type of work that we do. Our workforce centers come in all different shapes and sizes. Through those 12 different workforce development councils, a lot of those types of decisions are made on where and how big and what types of services. One of the bigger things we do is we do collect those job postings. And if you do go to, when you go to our workforce law, there's a huge list, for 100,000 postings. So it's a great place to go to see what is actually open out there. Now here's one of the great facts. Anybody hear about the hidden job market?
I better.
Hidden job market? Anybody, if you read some articles of all the job postings that are posted, about what percent of all actual openings does that represent? What's that?
20%.
Yep, 15, 20%. So my point is, another reason, big plug for our workforce centers, is that highly encourage, if you're looking to get on their position, go in there and take a look. But in reality, that's probably about 20% of all the actual jobs that are out there. Our staff are tied into the employers, and so often we can make those calls and do a direct connection. Say, hey, listen, why don't you go to this company? I think they're looking for this. It might not be posted, but we've had a lot of success tapping into that hidden job market, especially with our employer-focused part, which I'll get into in a bit. So another really great reason with those connections, we're business-led with our workforce councils. So we're much more than just the postings are important, very important for us, but we're much deeper than that. Tapping into that other 80% of the jobs that are out there. Resource rooms, so we see a lot of use, free computers, right? Individuals can come in with fax machines, whatever is needed, we will serve you in our one-stop centers. Free charge, printers, whatever the client needs. Resume review and posting. Resume writing is an art. I have been on so many interview panels. I've gone through so many resumes as a senior leader. On average, me and my peers, guess how much time we spend on a resume? Anybody? Last
20 seconds.
It's like 10, 12 seconds, And my point is, we're not doing that to be mean or to be, the point is with that realization, there's things that we teach, there's an art to writing a resume, to very quickly and succinctly capture. And that can be a challenge with a lot of our veterans. Veterans, tell me about a veteran resume. Short, concise? They're huge, right? So there is an art, as we transition our military personnel into the civilian world, on how to be clear, succinct, and how can you catch in a 10 to 12 second time frame a person reviewing your resume. This is the types of skills that our team works with folks on, because that's one of the first big battles that our job seekers, whether unemployed or underemployed, face, is that pile of resumes of folks that might apply to a position. How do we make you stand out with employers, right? Writing a job description. What do you want? How can you do an even more effective job? So we focus on both ends of that, both the job seeker and the employer. A lot of work with resume skills assessment. A lot of times we think we know what our superpowers are, but through these skills assessments, sometimes our individuals can find additional real strengths they got that they didn't realize that were marketable. I remember it was a few years ago when I was with WorkSource. I had a single mom who had a couple kids, and we were able to get her through the DSHS organization, just talking to her, and says, well, what can I apply for? I'm a mom, you know? And I said, listen, as a single mom, you've got all the skills that 99% of all employers out there would die for. I mean, what you do every day with project management and transportation and logistics, and so a lot of times what our teams do, and it's not just our employment security teams, it's our teams that work with our job, is to give them that confidence, that hope that, hey, you got this, right? Every one of us here have had some pretty negative, I'm sure, experiences with employment, and it can sometimes really take an effect on self-esteem, self-confidence. So that's another thing I just love about the work that we do through our work source centers is, hey, there's a veteran term I learned, battle buddy. We're your battle buddy. We're in this with you. The greatest joy I see with my team is when we're able to help you in your team and through the employers get that great placement, right? Especially at a living wage job. Labor market information. We've got an incredible team, and I'll show you just a few screenshots coming up of the type of work. If you're a researcher and you kind of like to see and research, our team has got full access to an incredible amount of information on, you know, what are the more in-demand jobs, what's the changing economy. And this is one of the beauties of having a more localized workforce development concept. It's different in our different counties. So when you or any of our clients visit us, you've got full access to a lot of amazing labor market information that our frontline staff is also very privy to. Workshops, Bill is one of our all-stars. Bill, you teach workshops across the state, you know, that we're doing, and they're high quality. They're very high quality workshops, and so often, you know, in these workshops, you've got individuals who are kind of inspiring themselves to get that position, and with really great facilitation, can really help our clients and our employers with what they need to do. Interviewing, another skill, that's an art also. How do you nail that interview? So we'll do mock interviews, whatever it is that you need, and working with our employers on how to be more effective interviews. Working with employers on just going through resumes. It's another service that we also provide, is if some of our smaller employers especially want help screening through resumes and that, we'll do that also. Remember, this is your public workforce system, and these are things that we try to do for you. We talk about training and education. Digital literacy is a really big thing. It's a really big thing with so many of our employers. What's happening with AI now, it's like, oh my gosh, where's this going in our industry? And how do we stay, if not on top of it, in front of it? It's very challenging right now. But having a digital literacy is becoming a must-have to be employed, to retain employment, to grow. It's a must-have. But as you look across the state, we're at various levels of that digital literacy. Down in Walla Walla County, one of our areas, at least down east, 70% of our employers are 5 employees or less. Wow. And we're finding we almost got a bigger digital literacy challenge with our employers than we have with our job seekers. But we do provide to both our job seekers and our employers a lot of digital literacy work to just assure, because it's a requirement now to have that digital literacy. But not all of us have been lucky enough or blessed enough to have been able to be trained up in this. So a real focus of ours in our public workforce system in this state. And hiring events, these are fun. A lot of times we get a lot of employers. Sometimes it's nice to do this in person, and so in many of our one-stops across the state, quite frequently, we'll get a number of employers, get the word out, and hey, come on in, meet these employers. And we've had quite a huge success rate in getting in-person job seekers, employers matched up with the hope of that living wage job, obviously. So these are just some, not all of them, but these are just some of the in-person services that if you were to visit one of our worksource connection or affiliate sites that a lot of times you have access to. Please, Ish. Please.
Thank you. Do not sleep on the labor market information. I know that John talked about it. I was at JBLM a couple of weeks ago when the Naval Base Kitsap came to visit, and Sam was talking about our transitioning service members, right? You have a transitioning service member, and they have in mind that this is the business I'm going to open or the job I want to do. Without that labor market information, they're not going to have any idea if that's going to sustain them financially, if that's going to be a quality wage job. I think that's the biggest difference between the public higher education system and the workforce system, is the fact that when we work with a job seeker, we start by the assessment, but then we look at the labor market information. So you're telling me you have a family of 4, and you have all these expenses, and this is the job you want to do. Are you aware that this job only pays $15 an hour? And it will only help you address 30% of your needs. If that's not gonna work for you, let's look at something else that is similar that you can do that will meet your family's needs. Without our labor market information, we're not gonna be able to do that.
And it's very important. So many of our clients feel it because of that financial pinch constantly, always seem to be on our heels. But to Isha's point, and I'll show you just a screenshot of some of the tools we've got to use. When we talk about that Alice level, it's different obviously in different regions of the state, but we've got those calculators here. And if you're a family with 3 kids in the Spokane region, any idea about what that Alice level, where you're just at, it's 80, 90,000 a year. So to Isha's point, when you start looking at that as a family, it's like, ooh, wow, you know, I don't know if that $20 an hour, $22 an hour position is gonna get us. And sometimes just through our staff, just working our clients through that, say, listen, I remember back in 2009, 2010, we remember the 2008 recession that we had. A lot of it was over home building and over mortgaging. So all of a sudden we found ourselves with a glut of home builders, framers, you name it. So now the key became transferable skills. And there was this very close connection with aerospace assemblers. Okay, if we can upskill through training, free, but working with our community colleges and other institutions and teach those individuals who know wood but actually get them upskilled to know aluminum training, and get them then to say, okay, and if we with this type of additional training or certifications, you could be making this level. Now you plug it into the calculator, we're approaching, if not over, living wage positions now. So these are things, to Isha's point, that we try to provide in addition to just labor market information, localized and focused on the family, to self-realize that, ooh, you know, it might be very smart at this point to invest in some of this training to get me from $26 at, wow, 32 bucks, really? All of a sudden it makes a big difference. So, for me, it's fun when I hear the stories with our frontline staff now, when you kind of jointly realize this stuff and say, okay, so let's do this now, and we understand the why. I got a question, especially for our veterans. I don't know if all you know, but veterans do have priority service into all Department of Labor programs. Why do so many of our veterans struggle with this concept that you have got priority of service over anybody else when it comes to a lot of these Department of Labor programs?
All of them.
What's that?
Every Department of Labor program that is funded in part or wholly by Department of Labor, veterans have priority of service.
And why, as a veteran, do some of our veterans really struggle with that priority of service?
It's a non-veteran, working in this environment. I got to tell you, I've never seen a more humble group of people. No matter what the topic is that comes up, thank you for your service. Oh, well, it wasn't, whatever it is. I know better. And I think that humility, that comes with the very, very fact they chose to serve in the first place is part of it.
Please, I'm going to hand this to you.
Okay. I think that a lot of veterans have a different relationship with their history. I know my 30, now 40-year-old son served in Desert Storm, and he puts it out there. He says, have you got 30% for me? Have you got 20%? I think if we can encourage our veterans to speak up, to be proud.
Yes.
he gets 30% every time he walks in a hotel room door. So I think they just don't speak about it.
Yep, great point, Pete. So many of you have been taught to serve.
Yeah.
You serve others, you serve your country, and thank you for that. And at times, it can be a tougher pill to swallow with our veterans that you've also got with us, legally. Priority. You do go to the front of the line with a lot of this stuff. So I just encourage our veterans with that humbleness, we're here to help you. You do have a priority of service with our Department of Labor programs. So accept it. And let's move forward together. It's not at the expense of some other, it's your right. It's your legal right. And we take that very seriously. So we're here to serve you, and you're right at the front of the line when it comes to serving you. So, next. So we talked about the in-person services, which I highly recommend at our WorkSource centers. We also got an incredible virtual service. And what I've done here is just showing you a screen. I'm on WorkSource Wall. It's an incredible tool that I just highly encourage everybody to utilize. I just want to show you that this is your free. You can get signed up in like 5 minutes to get your WorkSource WA. In the next 5 or 6, you're gonna I highly encourage you, if you haven't done it, just go to the site, get registered, and I'll just show you some of the highlights of it. Resumes. As our clients are out there looking for jobs, you have to have targeted resumes. To have a generic resume, so much of that battle initially when resumes are submitted to an employer, it's the resume battle. There could be 100 resumes. How does your resume stand out? And if I, as a hiring authority, take 10 to 12 seconds per, right? That's what we're here to help you, our clients, with. How do you get through that initial? That's a big competitive sort right there. So in this site, you have the ability to store all of your different resumes. And we are really, our team really says, well, what industry, what employer? Resumes really need to be focused on the employer that you're going to be applying for. Looking for, hey, who is that employer? What awards? Why? So that, if I'm going through the resumes, I've got 80 of them, and all of a sudden I see one that has respected me as an employer by doing some specific things about me, I'm gonna have a natural tendency to, okay, this one is gonna be, these are things that we teach. But in the site, you'll be able to keep in our clients all their different resumes. Cover letters, obviously, there's an art to that also. Speaking clearly, succinctly, but directly to the employers that you might be applying for. And any other supporting documents all reside within your WorkSource Law account. Next. We were talking about budgeting. Ish brought this up. We've got tools built into this system where anyone can go in and you can put, how much money do you need to make? Different in different regions, but we've got tools within WorkSource Law where you can just go in, put the stuff in, and just be at times humbled. I have to make, what? About how much? And I'm just talking paycheck to paycheck, which so many of us feel. And but there's tools in there to help, our clients self-realize, like, ooh, wow, okay, maybe this is that incentive to invest in that training through us, not through you. Program. Find your career. Many of us have had many careers. I've shared with you, I've had many different careers in my career. But we've got tools to help our clients in WorkSource Law maybe uncover a career that they hadn't even thought about. But their skills based on the assessment says you would very likely succeed in this type of role you might not have thought of. And if you can compare that back to maybe some of the wages, sometimes there's some pretty interesting discussions that say, oh wow, that's pretty interesting. In any searches, jobs, schools, jobs I applied for, it's your one-stop virtual setting where all this stuff for you can be stored. Next. I just pulled down one of the tabs, my work source, your work source, free. Your dashboards, you can see in this system all the amount of information that you can keep with respect to your apply to your saved jobs, send and receive messages. You can do this all through WorkSource WA on behalf of the Washington Workforce System. We're connected to all these very large, Indeed, US Jobs, Monster, Career Builder, right? So what you got in this very powerful tool is a very incredible connective virtual tool that we put a lot of time and effort in behind the scenes. That is all for each of you and your clients free to use to keep track of what you're doing. Next. Industry searches, keyword searches. Maybe through the, there's some new skills that you just realize, oh wow, there's a different type of career that I might be really closely qualified for. Well, let's start kind of looking for what that is, who might be the employers, who might be hiring. And for those of you who are veterans, your military code, what's that transferable? If you did this in the military, what's that translation tool to the civilian world? So that's very important also. So you'll see with Crosswalk, I'll show you a few others. We've got a lot of tools that we're connected in with that can help our veterans determine that, okay, you did this in the military, that's pretty close to this in the civilian world. So additional tools on this virtual WorkSource WA. Next. Labor market information. My region kind of has the distinction as of June of 2024 of having the lowest unemployment rate in the state at 3.4 and the highest unemployment rate in the state up in Ferry County at 7.5. This just shows you how different our state is and why with the state's workforce development system that we've chosen to go to a more localized approach, because the work we're doing in Ferry County and Stevens County and Pend Oreille County is different than the work we're doing in Asotin County and Walla Walla County. By design, we have to do that, right? The same solutions don't fit both of them. So this is just part of the information. United States, 4.1%, we are at 4.9%. Any idea what in the U.S. what the military, the veteran unemployment rate is?
4.2.
It's lower. It's 3.0. That's what I've seen. Okay, now layer on top of that are veterans with a disability that are more highly barriered, 6.1%. We'll get into now, some of our veterans that have disabilities. It's another very, very key focus for our system, but that's upcoming. So in our virtual WorkSource WA system, you and your coach also have access to a lot of data to help you, to guide you. Next. It's not just about the job seeker, it's also about the employer. Our employers need a lot of help and guidance also. A very small percentage of all our employers statewide have got HR teams, and so often that's kind of a role that we play. We work with them, and we strongly encourage they also get WorkSource WA accounts. A lot of coaching with our business services team on how to really very effectively write those job descriptions, get it out there. You've reviewed resumes, how do you perform interviews so often. At our one-stops, we will enable interview space for our employers. Question?
Real quick. So I just retired last year and my children have just became of age to start working, and something big that I've kind of noticed here is all jobs are requiring resumes. It don't matter if it's at the coffee shop, the grocery store. How do we help our kids with this type of stuff that have no experience?
Send them
That's
to your local
crazy.
WorkSource.
Right.
We're here to help. You are right. You're right. It's an enabler. It's a requirements for so many. And the art, and it's an art, of writing an effective resume, right? To enable your children, when they apply, and please, with our help and guidance, we're here free of charge to help with that. It's an art to get through that initial sort. If I'm paying 10 to 12 seconds per resume, right? That's what we're here for. That's what our public workforce system is here for. You got a microphone.
Yeah, John is absolutely right. Send your children to work stores. And we tend to forget that your children more than likely have some of the best skills that we're looking for, right? If you think about teamwork as a skill, did they do competitive sports? What did they do while they were in high school, middle school? That's where you build those skills, collaboration. Have they worked on group projects, right? So there's a lot of those skills that they're working with a professional at work source, they'll be able to tease that out and be able to add to that resume. I'm sure they have a lot of experience that are relevant to so many jobs out there.
Quick. Ish, would you mind? Thank you so much.
Wait. No, if I start running, I'm gonna.
Most of our WorkSource offices have a youth program that focuses on 16 to 24-year-olds and really highlighting the skills that they have and knowing how to market those. So,
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I'll hit loose up.
And it's a challenge with, when you see the unemployment rates right now of our youth, they're pretty high, right? And so there's that challenge of, so many of our children do want to become self-sufficient, and it's harder and harder right now to do so. So thank you for that. Please.
Son.
All right.
Nice.
So, Timothy Brooks, WorkSource, North Seattle. So one thing that I know that I started doing, I'm in business services, and I started going out to our local high schools and just working with their counselors. They'll call us in, and like for an hour, I'll come in there and I'll let them know about writing a resume, how important it is to write a resume, even if you're looking for a job, or just writing something to a career counselor, how to interview, the whole START system. Just try to get them ready while they're in high school. At least that's what we started to do.
And that is exactly some of the innovation that we referred to earlier. That is, for me, so encouraging. And even with your WorkSource Center at a community college, co-located, that's another innovation that we keep trying to figure out. It looks different across the state, but with like Tim and his team to reach our youth even earlier, so we're not the best kept secret out there. Thank you for that work that you're doing in our high schools also. Employers, pre-screening of applicants. Some of our employers want us to help them with that. They don't have an HR department. Fine, we'll do that. Interview rooms, hiring events, wage and labor market information. A lot of times, that's some of the coaching that we have to provide to our employers. Sometimes our employers say, hey, we're gonna post this job for this amount. Ooh, at that rate, here's some coaching that we have to now do with our employers. Like, we don't recommend that it's at that, but that's all we can afford. This is what our employer service, our business services side do with them. A lot of compliance information out there. It's confusing. We've got experts across our system who understand this stuff, and it's so hard. I know as a small employer recently, at a nonprofit, I couldn't keep up with all this stuff. It's a lot without an HR department, and I was able to rely on WorkSource to say, hey, what do I need to know? I don't want to break the law. Bill.
Yeah, and it goes without saying, because you said it about in other venues, but at no cost to the employers.
At no cost.
So one of the things that we did, have done, and will do it again in WorkSource Spokane, is we've actually sent out our instructors to teach HR departments, recruiters, how to do behavioral interviewing, what to look for in resumes, and so on. And so some of the same services that we teach to employees, we can also teach to the employer.
Yeah, behavioral interviews, asking the right types of questions. What are you really looking for? What skills are you really looking for? If some of you look at some of these job postings, sometimes you go through this list that's like, oh my God, I don't think there's a human on earth that might have. So a lot of what Tim and Bill and our partners do, who do work with our employers, there's a lot of coaching that goes into that also, free of charge. Just having to reach out. and behavioral-based interviews. Instead of asking just yes, no questions, how can you ask questions that you're actually getting towards the behaviors of what you actually want? So there's a lot of coaching, a lot of questioning with our employers also. And a lot of innovation, as you're hearing from our team. That's the key. That is really key. Couldn't be prouder also of what I'm seeing. And just so much employer information with all of our seekers. Why don't we go to the next? So, virtual for employers, I did not set up, I'm doing screenshots here in WorkSource WA, still in WorkSource WA, just hopping over to the employer side right now. But if you're employer or employers, it's about a 15-minute to get fully signed in. Highly recommend. It's a requirement for those that do post. But you know, free job postings, recruit, retain, workers of every type. Couldn't more highly recommend all of our employers, you know, to get involved in this. Very powerful tool, and it just enables free of charge our entire, and it's not just employment security, it's our entire team, our entire workforce team to be there with you, doing services like Bill and Tim and others have described. So why don't you go to the next? Veterans specifically, pulling this out of WorkSource WA, some of these services for veterans. If you're finding yourself in a career transition, and these are all the connections that we've done as a workforce system in our state to connect you with these different resources. Instead of having to Google it and try to keep finding it, explore comparable jobs with My Next Move. These are all hyperlinks. And if this is released as part of our pack, these are all hyperlinks that you can go to. But just sign up for WorkSource WA, it's all in there. Department of Military One Source, 24/7, all part of WorkSource WA for our veterans. Crosswalk, this translating tool we talk about, it's important to have that. And the state of Washington, overall, we're extraordinarily vet friendly at the state of Washington. So we very aggressively want veterans employed by the state. So we highly recommend, and might be a bit biased, at least I am, on as we get our veterans that come through, there might be some great state opportunities. We're very vets friendly. Translator tools, you see a lot of translator tools. Why don't we go to the next? For spouses, as all of you know who are in the military, it's a family affair, it's an extended family affair. And I'll show you in a bit some of the challenges. A lot of you have experienced this or are experiencing it with our spouses. Moving state to state, credentials, you know what I'm talking about. It can be very challenging. So we've got a lot of, we acknowledge it. We work, I know as a state we're working on this, to how to enable, as military spouses travel, that credentialing becomes much more rapid, because we'll show you some of the stats with our spouses, our military spouses. It can be frustrating for our spouses, but we do have these different hyperlinks on WorkSource WA for our for anybody with our Military Family Leave Act to understand more about that. The key is just to make sure we did our best, we're doing our best to get all the relevant information in one spot with hyperlinks. We're not saying that we're the experts, we just want to make sure that at least our veterans have these connections that we've been able to find. This is not all the resources across the US, but we've done our best to get very relevant resources when it comes to employment. And a lot of transition services, Sam Mitchell here, who is our administrator at Joint Base Lewis McChord, they're doing an amazing job with this. But these are links to other opportunities with that. So doing our best to serve our veterans, because you've done so much to serve us over the years. Please, something? Next. We talk about military spouses. Some of you are feeling this. I just wanted to kind of put some numbers that we realize as we work with our veterans, that with 40% of our military spouses having college degrees, but 30% of the population does, so our military spouses are more have got more credentials, but yet the unemployment rate for military spouses is 24%.
That's very high.
It's 3 to 4% across, right? And some of you understand this at a deep level. We just want to say we see it. 31% of military spouses are working part-time but prefer full-time. We're here for you. We're your public workforce system. Get involved. We're going to do our best. There's bigger things that we're working on with credentialing, transfer from state to state, which can be very frustrating, can prevent teachers, can prevent other types of individuals from instantaneously, as a spouse, picking up a job. We get it. And we realize we're not where we need to be as a state yet, but we're very humbled by this type of information also with our military spouses. 63% are unemployed, and they earn 27% less than the general population, with 40% having higher credentials. So this is some of the challenges. I know I'm not a veteran. I am the husband of a veteran. My wife, 12 years in the Air Force. But these are some of the challenges that we know we don't have all the answers for, but we know it's a very important topic for our veterans when it comes to our workforce system in the state.
Can I bring up a pet
Please.
peeve, a pet peeve of mine with military spouses in the US DOL law? Something that we really have been trying to ask them to change for a while at the federal level. Can anybody in the room guess what military spouses are called under the federal law that we operate under for US DOL?
Dependents.
What's that? No. It's two words. It's so rooted in the 60s. Displaced homemaker.
Oh,
How's that?
that's terrible.
So John is a displaced homemaker,
I'm a displaced homemaker.
right?
I am,
It is. So
by law.
when we were operating a program to support job seekers impacted by Boeing layoffs in Snohomish area in 2017, 18, 19, James, we worked together in that region. We were trying to enroll military spouses to make sure that they get access to services also. And we start doing the enrollment process, and it showed that what is this displaced homemaker? I was like, oh, don't worry about it, that's just the name that's in the paper. That tells you about some of the challenges we have to overcome, even with the way some of the laws are set up.
So this is awareness we try to raise. It's up to the federal. So there's a lot of lobbying early on as we band together. These are some things we have to change because some of the unintended consequences, in my opinion, it can cause a lot of this. So we're doing our best. It takes time. We do get a lot of our funding from the federal government. So when you accept funding, you also accept the guidelines, the policies, the procedures,
The strings.
the strings, but it's very important first off to get that funding. So, but to Ish's point, there's feedback that we then are providing on you and your behalf as veterans that we would like to see changed. So, next. Other benefits, WorkSource WA, you get in here, I use the term battle buddy, but POSREP, the position report, proximity-based social networking, just allowing you, if you like, to reach out and find other fellow veterans. So often, just speaking amongst each other, me as a non-veteran, very different. I'm not gonna fully understand what so many of you have gone through. So often it's just good to work with your own. And we'll get into some of our positions next at WorkSource, our veterans, like Doug here, who are there to serve you as a fellow veteran. You can speak person to person at a deeper level, and we respect that. DVA, different GI, bill and benefits, once again, just highlighting, get into WorkSource WA if you're not signed up for it, www.worksourcewa.com, and you'll have all this connections to different, just to make sure that you're informed, because our team is there to work with you in this space. Next. So when we talk about our America's Job Center within the WorkSource as well, who is there specifically, legally, to serve our veterans? We get a lot of veterans, right? A lot of our staff serve veterans. We do, though, have specific individuals who work with our disabled veteran outreach specialists. So these individuals within our one-stops are there to work with the veteran with significant barriers towards employment, the homelessness, you know, the other challenges that so many of our veterans find themselves facing. We've got specific individuals there legally, you know, we're gonna work with you on that. We've also got, so that's the, I'll call it the job seeker focus. We've also got the employer focused, working with those employers like the state and others who are very vet friendly on out there for you as for our veterans, opening up those opportunities, making sure that those opportunities are there for our veterans. Local veterans employer representative, we love our acronyms, right? We've also got a designation called the Consolidated Veteran Service Rep who can do both. Can both work with our job seekers and can work with our employers. Doug, what have I missed? Anything else, Doug, that you'd even like to add on how we serve our veterans? Putting you absolutely on the spot, unannounced from
Let me get my notebook.
Okay.
I asked this, I just want to brag a bit about Doug. Just yesterday, we were doing JVSG, I won't go into the details, but Doug is one of our highest performers, the top 15% across the state. So I don't even want to pretend to have your level of knowledge, Doug.
I would say I lend everything to Monique in the back of the room. She's taught me everything I know, and I'm Ish's assistant. For me, I'm actually the employer's probably biggest cheerleader, ultimately, when it comes down to it. I'm there to help employers be able to build capacity in their organization to hire veterans. So we go through a lot of things, a lot of the stuff they talked about earlier that John had mentioned. We go through as a business services team, but we also help employers understand how to hire a veteran, how to train a veteran, how to mentor, promote, and retain a veteran, because it's much easier to retain staff than it is to continually go out and hire, especially with the job seeker portion right now, which is reduced. There's not as many people seeking positions, so that's been a real challenge for employers. In fact, when we do have job fairs, sometimes I'll see one HR person at a table representing a company, and a couple months later I'll see them at a different table representing a different company.
Yep.
So moving around, it happens. But I would say that's probably the biggest challenge that employers have, is finding quality staff. But we can help with that. And ultimately it's our job and our mission to be able to assist them and ultimately help veterans.
Doug, I appreciate you, buddy, putting you on the spot.
I appreciate John and Ish. They didn't pay me to say that, but I truly do, because without the senior leadership for the Employment Security Department, we wouldn't have a lot of the programs we do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
All right, let's go to the next.
Can I-
No.
Can I add something quickly?
Of course you can.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you. So you heard John and Doug speak quite a bit about employer services when we are here to talk about veterans. But here's the thing. I think you know this, but it's worth repeating. Can you get somebody a job if nobody's hiring? Can a business hire job seekers if they're failing and they're not making money? Right? So the whole workforce system requires successful businesses. So our number one priority is to ensure that businesses are doing well in our community, thriving. Because when you do that, then you create opportunities for job seekers to get employed and to get living wage jobs.
Thank you. A very key point that often is not stated as clearly. Thank you. Next chart. Quickly, we'll go through this. This is just going through a little bit more detail, but with our job seeker focused positions, working with our veterans with significant barriers, our DVOPs, We've talked about this, but developing these individualized employment plans, every one of our veterans with these significant barriers are different. So it takes working through those individual plans with them, which I really do respect that. Next, when we talk about, as Doug did much more eloquently than I, just this outreach. And to Ish's point, the ultimate goal is to make our employers successful. And I think we all know that the advantages of hiring a veteran. Yeah, we all know that. And it's just assuring that our employers also fully understand that. And that to enable, and the key is also, as Doug mentions, it's very expensive with high employee turnover. It really is. And if we can just continue to work with those employers to retain that veteran for a longer amount of time, everybody wins. The employer wins, the economy wins, right? So that's just a big portion of what Doug and his fellow teams across the Washington workforce system do. Next. And also one thing, back in 2016, I believe, it was House Bill 2040 was passed, and it is, how do we incentivize, how do we encourage employers to be very vet friendly? So we do have this ESD, the Yes Vets. It's a program that we've got that just recognizes and helps employers with the hiring of veterans and celebrates those employers that are proving to be very veterans friendly. So just another network that we've tapped into to encourage, to really encourage, because nobody will argue the advantages of hiring our veterans in employers. A lot of times it just takes, as Doug said, working with those employers to make sure that they are fully realizing how to more fully utilize the amazing assets, of the veterans they may be hiring. Ish, could you run? Thank you you're gonna get the microphone.
Just a quick plug for Yes Vets. If you are employed, ask your employer to go to yesvets.org. We will present them with a Yes Vets window cling and honor them for hiring a veteran. If you're a business and you want to hire veterans, go to yesvets.org and we will connect with you and find you veterans to hire.
Very concerted effort, right? Just to help employers understand the importance of this. Thank you very much. Next.
Oops.
Oh, please, that's it. You got it.
Can I say?
Yes, you can.
So,
Something that we are very proud of at ESD, I know this about the public workforce system, and we are the state workforce agency. That's our designation at Washington State. In our division, all of us here in the room the working workforce, we are the workforce services division. And I'm really proud that in our division, roughly 15%, I believe, of our team members are veterans.
Yep.
So, Monique, we can get us the right number, but last I checked about a year ago, it was because our entire JVSG program are veterans. And then we have plenty of veterans in positions of leadership, providing services in the center. So that's something we're very proud of. And something worth repeating, John, you mentioned it earlier, but just to be sure again, yes, the JVSG program is strictly focused on our veterans. However, any program at WorkSource, veterans always take priority, regardless if it's the JVSG or not.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ish. All right. So just in closing, the last couple of charts here. Why visit your WorkSource office? We talked about this hidden job market. This stat shows 95% of all jobs. So often we strongly encourage our job seekers to apply for these jobs that are on WorkSource Wall. Very important. You saw how extensive our network is. There's a whole nother layer, especially through our employer-focused staff, of getting you into that hidden job market. I distinctly remember years ago when I was with ESD, we really taught this about getting out there and just walking, which we would ask our job seekers, what are 3 companies you'd like to work for? I don't care if there's a job post. What are 3 companies you'd like to work for? Through a job club scenario where we get these individuals together, they self-inspire. They would create targeted resumes, card cover letters. And then the next step was actually courageously walking into that employer, dressed up, right? We taught them about the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper with this person you're gonna come across who's gonna try to protect the rest of the company from you at that initial moment. But how to coach that person to work their way through the gatekeeper to get to a hiring authority, and then hopefully getting hired. And remember, her name's Jan. I'm not going to mention her last name. She runs an electric company here. Anyway, one of our job seekers went to this company through this job club, and I got a call the next day, and I knew Jan. And I said, "Well, John, I just wanted to thank you." "Hi, Jan. For what?" "Well, so-and-so just came out here, walked in. I don't have an open position right now, but after meeting so-and-so, I hired him on the spot." I said, she said, he had everything that I was looking for, a proactivity, taking the initiative, courage, everything that she was looking for. She hadn't posted a position, but she hired him on the spot. So this is tapping into that 90-95%. This is just part of what our team in the state's workforce development system helps realize. Because sometimes competing in that resume battle, you got to do it. But it's sometimes a tougher road. Social media. There's employers do check into that. So there's guidance and advice that we can share with team members on what might be in social media, because it is one way employers do background checks publicly. And sometimes there's some things that might not be to your advantage as a job seeker. We work with you on that also. Okay, please.
Can I share a story?
Yes, you can.
So a long time ago, I interned for the Washington State Senate legislature for a senator. So I was recruited to be an intern, non-partisan, assigned to a senator's office. I was really excited. And the coordinator of the internship used a sentence that I always remember. He said, "You start January 1st, January 3rd or something, we look forward to having you. By the day you start, will there be anything on your social media page that could be embarrassing to the state of Washington?"
Yeah.
And that was just such a genius question. The question was not, do you have anything embarrassing now, or did you do anything embarrassing? By the time you start, which was about 2 weeks away. And I said, no. Guess what I did that night? Went to my Facebook, because Facebook was it back then. I literally went back and guess what were the pictures? Club, drink, alcohol, holidays, spent pretty much 2-3 hours cleaning over that page. And I learned a great lesson that day.
It's an important point. Social media is here, and employers do check that.
Just really quick, it was a few years ago, not too many, but literally a few years ago, we surveyed employers at our annual Spokane Workforce Area Conference, and 100% of every employer said, "We will look at your Facebook if we can, and if we can't, we'll wonder why not."
It's a question.
Oh, question. Here comes the mic.
Well, that kind of raises a question. If there is no social media presence, does that bode ill, bode well, or indifferent?
Almost to Bill's point.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? I can't answer that. Does anybody, right up here, one row up. Thank you.
Well, LinkedIn's a professional one, so rather than the Facebook or the TikTok or whatever,
Right.
Instagram, LinkedIn, a professional online presence,
Right.
It could be a good idea.
So on the flip side, we've talked about the potential pitfalls. There's also distinct strategies.
LinkedIn, yes.
LinkedIn, to using social media to your advantage. So it's both. My point is with the Washington workforce system, it's part of what we do focus on with our clients, to make sure that at least there's that awareness, so that a person like Ish can have that opportunity to go home and clean up for 2 to 3 hours. Ish, thank you, my friend. Here we go.
Your local board does have LinkedIn workshops.
Yep.
So your local worksource has classes on how to put together your workshop, your LinkedIn profile and how to maximize that and get the recommendations, just all of those. They make it super easy, they walk you through it. It's part of our digital literacy too, so all the way through.
Like Bill said, we do everything.
We do.
But it's very important. Social media is a very important part of today's employment market. So let's do it smartly. Ish.
I got one more.
Thank you. No, please. Thanks, Tim.
So I work with a DBOP, but I haven't heard too much information about this. But veterans, I hear they have, not only do we give them priority of service,
Yep.
but I've heard some employers mention like direct hire if they're a veteran. Are you familiar with that?
Doug, I see. Doug, do you mind, or does somebody want to answer that much more qualified than I?
They just have to be a certain percentage.
Oh, Doug, God bless you.
Who's answering?
Either Doug or Doug.
Doug, I'm going to give it to Doug. Thank you.
If they don't want to answer, I will.
No, go ahead. Either way.
All right, so depending on the status of a veteran, they can be direct hire with a company, or more importantly, a federal agency as well too. So that's really the key there.
Status of disability?
It's got to do with the status of disability for that. And unlike other positions where they have to post on, they gotta do the resume on USA Jobs, they don't have to do that. They can apply directly to the organization. So like, well, there's a couple of different alphabet companies locally that basically they just have to call them up, say I'm interested in the position, and they have them come in, do an interview. And then they start filling the paperwork out.
Yeah.
There is no actual application process or anything. It moves along real quickly. So.
Tim, did that answer?
Yeah.
I think James wanted to add to it.
Others?
So what I was gonna say is like Doug was saying, it is an extremely expedited process. And that's the easiest way to look at it. Anytime you can have a direct hire, it can speed it up by months. And this is really based upon when somebody transitioned out, disability. There's a multitude of different things, qualifiers potentially, but it opens the door primarily for federal opportunities at a very high family wage, if you will. And it's really the sky's the limit from that point.
Sam,
And I'll just add,
I'll
just add real quickly, our state was the first in the nation in 2012 to open that private sector employers. So private sector employers can open jobs for priority to veterans without violating any laws. So first in the nation.
And then just real quick with the federal hiring authorities, you don't necessarily have to be disabled. There's other categories depending on when you got out, like VEOA. There's all different categories. But luckily, your local worksource office has veteran employment specialists. They can let you know what your eligibility for all of those direct hire opportunities are, and can teach you how to access them. And then also Washington State, they said that we are a veteran-friendly employer. It's even in our CBA and stuff. We can do direct hire in Washington State agencies too. So depends on the agency, but it's one of our laws. So very veteran-friendly. Employment in the federal, state, or private sector, all of them you can have direct hire.
So, I just wanted, is this on?
No, can't hear you. No, I'm just starting.
I want your voice, Tim. You had a great voice. I just want to point out, completely unscripted here, this is what you can get through our public workforce. We have got this level of expertise. And it doesn't reside with the senior leaders at the time, but we have got the talent here where they're finishing each other's sentences on questions like this. So this is just why I love our public workforce system that we've got, because we've got such talent here to answer just those types of very important questions.
Yeah, because I didn't know if you had to be disabled or if you didn't have to be disabled, but then I just heard her say you don't have to be disabled.
Right, Doug?
For federal,
Nope.
You don't have to.
not for
Yep.
federal jobs. I'll tell you that my spouse works for the federal government, and I'm sure Monique can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you apply to a federal job, if there's a veteran that's applied, I'm talking direct, if there's a veteran that's applied and that qualifies for it, they don't look past that. They only look at veterans first. It's only when there's no veterans that's qualified in many of the jobs that they look outside of veterans. Federal jobs.
So for federal jobs, the way it works, the way veteran preference works on federal jobs is once you have been certified at a certain level, right, qualified or well qualified, extremely well qualified, your veteran's preference will give you 5 to 10 points at that level. It will never bump you into the next level. You'll never go from qualified to well qualified with those 10 points, but it can give you 10 points within your category.
Thank you so much.
So, hold on.
Here.
Yeah, and there are a lot of different programs out there, and that's why you're hearing so many different messages. So different agencies implement differently. Even in the state of Washington, we have a 5 and 10 point rule, but a lot of state employers don't test. So other agencies will say if a veteran's qualified, we're going to guarantee him an interview. Priority of service is implemented many different ways, even in the federal government and the state government. So all these answers are right. It's just confusing, I think, sometimes. So read that job ad, talk to the hiring authority, read terms like VRA is one of the terms you'll see a lot of times, and that's specifically for disabled veterans. They can get direct hire into certain agencies at a level of GS 11 and lower position. So it's confusing. And as Monique said, come see your work source because we can guide you through that.
And counties too. Also, counties have the same. I'm pretty sure that the county of Snohomish County has like a 2 or 3 point bump up right away when you have that. Like you said, you have to first be qualified. You have to be able to type 45 words a minute or whatever is necessary for the job. But I was going to ask a question. I hope we're working on it. But I noticed that our job board, the WorkSource job board, draws from U.S. jobs, but it doesn't draw from Washington state jobs or any county jobs.
And
We are working on it. With the WID implementation, we are trying to make sure that any job that's posted through governmentjobs.com is also posted through WorkSource. Well, as you know very well, WorkSource is so archaic that we cannot just get the feed to go in. We have to manually input every job, and that's why we are not doing that. With the new WID, through API, they're going to connect.
Yes, thank you, Monster.
WIT is technologically, just over a year from now, it's going to be a whole enhanced system. We struggle like other with technology at times, and so we've got to, please, what's that?
Yeah, 1 minute.
1 minute. All right. We talk about resumes. Next, this is the last page. Come on, Ish.
Backward.
You know, we talk about nailing your interview. You can see the talent that we do have, and it doesn't end upon getting the job also. We're also there to support you in the job, especially underemployed. If a lot of times it's important to get into a company, but then how do we get you to continue to progress through the company, finding mentors, etc. So we are not just there to get you into the company. We're there to continue to support as the Washington workforce system and on. So don't let it in there. Last chart. This is super important. Please, feedback survey, any feedback that you can provide us. We constantly are using this data to make these types of forms better. And your feedback is so important. So strongly encourage you, please provide feedback. We want to serve as good as we can, and your feedback will help us. Last point, once again, just going to remind everybody what we started with, 5 to 7 p.m., free food. just across the breezeway here. If you're also gonna do Pig Out in the Park, which is occurring today, tomorrow in Riverfront Park, enjoy. Please do. And finally, Ish, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.